I'm interested in ultimately what you've seen in terms of trading on the platform since the election.
The day post-election, the Wednesday post-election, our business doubled. We saw 100% growth in Bitcoin purchases. Our customers are predominantly purchasing Bitcoin, and over 90% since election are actually taking the Bitcoin off the platform and holding it in their own custody. So we're not seeing active speculative trading on gambling on the short-term price. We're seeing long-term accumulation on our platform, and our customers are excited. We serve Bitcoiners, and Bitcoiners are excited right now.
Okay, so you're maybe supporting those that are focused purely on the ecosystem, but people are going elsewhere to trade, whether it's gambling or not. We now got options trading on Bitcoin spot ETFs. What do you think of that? What do you make of this transition from, well, DeFi and crypto into more traditional finance?
Well, the last time I was on this show, I told you and Ed, Ed, congrats, by the way, I'm thinking of you. I told you guys I thought Bitcoin was the only money in crypto. I wasn't sold on any of the other cryptocurrencies, and that my business, we're predicated on Bitcoin as money, and we sell our customers financial services. So if you're a customer of mine, you want Bitcoin financial services, you want to buy it, you want to store it, you want to move it, you want to pay your bills with it, you maybe want a loan against it. These are the type of products that we want to serve our customers in the future. We do not think of ourselves as a speculative exchange, so that's my customer base. Options, ETFs, MSTR, all of these things are pro-liquidity for Bitcoin. What you want in a money or a store of value is you want it to be sellable. You want it to be liquid at any point, 24/7, 365, globally. You want to be able to sell it. And so all of this is pro-liquidity, which enhances the profile for Bitcoin to be a better asset for a government, a corporation, an individual. So everything is bullish for Bitcoin. That's what I always say. So another day, more bullish activity for the asset.
Okay, convince me of why for this liquidity, for this vision, for the future of money, you need a strategic Bitcoin reserve, because I know that's what you've been speaking to City of Loomis about. Sorry, we're having infrastructure issues.
Not your fault, not your fault. Here, I think the unique positioning on the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, I think if this happens, this will be one of the most important economic announcements in US history. I think it'd be on par with 1971 and Nixon. However, what I think is not being talked about enough is it's positive, Caroline.
Because you'd have to go out there and buy in the market, but will that actually happen?
No, my meaning is this. In 1933, the US had a really big economic announcement. What was it? We're taking all your gold. In 1971, the US had a really big economic announcement. What was it? We're divorcing ourselves from the gold standard so we can print money. In 2008, the US had a really big economic announcement. What was it? It was we're bailing out all the big banks that misbehaved. In 2025, if the US has a really big economic announcement, what is it? It's we're pro-technology, we're pro-innovation. What principles and morals and ethical alignment does Bitcoin have? Equal rights, equal opportunity, an open network. These are American ideals, American values. This is an asset that was accessible to the people 15 years ago that the people own. Governments only own 2, 3, 4% of this asset. This asset is held by the people. It acts in the best interest of the public. It's pro-jobs, it's pro-energy, it's pro-industry, it's pro-growth. And does anyone else have a plan to get us out of debt? Are we gonna start a lemonade stand out here in Times Square? No, how about the best performing asset in the history of mankind? We lean into it, we buy it. Coinbase is an American company, Strike's an American company, Kraken's an American company, Tether sells the US dollar. Let's support these businesses. Let's support this industry.
The market cap is less than Nvidia for the entire crypto ecosystem. When does that become bigger?
I think when people buy it, listen, I think that ego gets in the way of many people. People think they're late to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, right? I think that late according to who? Oh, because you're comparing yourself to Michael Saylor, you're comparing yourself to your college roommate, you're comparing yourself to your coworker. Over the last 15 years, the best thing you could have done is buy Bitcoin. And I think that's gonna be true for the next 1,500 years. And so as a country, I think we have a choice. I think everyone else around the world is understanding we are pro-growth, pro-business, pro-Bitcoin as this new administration takes office. And we have to make a decision. I think the worst thing we can do is not own enough. And actually to de-risk this, we should buy some and push these American ideals in technology and innovation and growth through the best performing asset and technology in mankind.
Crazy to have a national Bitcoin reserve is what we just heard from Larry Summers speaking last week on Wall Street Week. What do you make of that? Is it crazy or is it something we need here in the US?
Look, do I think it's crazy? I think that these are, it depends on how you think about Bitcoin, right? And so as we've seen more acceptance, including from the treasury sector, including from the Fed share, just to this idea that Bitcoin is digital gold and it functions more like gold than anything else, the idea of a reserve becomes, I think, less crazy, to use Larry Summers' terminology. And I think you have to decide, which is as a government, and we have to decide as kind of as a global economy, where are we going to put our focus, where we're going to put our attention. To the extent that you thought gold was crazy, you might think Bitcoin's crazy. To the extent you think they're analogous, you'll have a different opinion. So it doesn't surprise me that that's Larry Summers' take on the concept, but I think it's completely reasonable to have a very different perspective on that, as many do.
A cynic might say that doing that would remove supply from the Bitcoin that's out there and just cause the price to go higher, making a select group of people even wealthy.
Cynic or a bull.
Or a bull would say that.
Or a bull, yeah,
But
boulder.
How would you reply to somebody who's a cynic saying, there's really no use for this in terms of the US stockpiling except to make some people really wealthy?
Yeah, again, I think it comes back to this concept of how you feel about gold. The same arguments could have been made historically and also, frankly, probably today. I can't say I'm following who the whales of gold are very closely, but I'm sure there are some outsized holders of gold as well. And I think it all comes back to fundamentally this question around US dollar dominance and how you want to ensure that the US remains the world's global reserve currency. And if Bitcoin can be an adjacency to that and help support that proposition, then, I think there's a logic to that. But yeah, I can certainly see why a cynic or critic of this opportunity would have skepticism about it. And personally, I don't know that it falls as the #1 priority we have in the crypto policy space versus an idea that I think merits discussion and is of interest.
Yeah, I've noticed that, Sheila, a lot of even big holders in this space, Michael Novogratz, for example, don't put a lot of faith in the idea of a crypto reserve. But then last week we heard Vladimir Putin talking about it. And I feel like the first time I ever thought about the idea that countries would use it as a reserve was when the US started to put real restrictions on Russia's dollar reserves. The whole point of this is that no government can censor it, right? And that's what we try and do with the dollar. What do you think we need to do to reach a critical mass? I mean, if the US and Russia start to build reserves, I know it's a big if, but if that happens, I mean, everyone else is going to follow, right?
Yeah, well, look, I'll just say that I think the priority here ought to be US dollar dominance and ensuring that the US dollar, for a variety of reasons, for national security reasons, for sanctions-related reasons, for global macroeconomic reasons, I think that should be a priority. And again, I think there are arguments to be made, and they're being made by some, about why a Bitcoin strat reserve would support that. But I think if that's the focus, the most important thing we could do is land stablecoin regulation. Okay, so right now we know that in circulation, we're under circulating essentially US dollar coins of various kinds, dollar pegged stable coins. There is tremendous demand for those as the engine of the digital economy. And the question becomes, what is the parameter around which their issuance, around which they're kept? All of those are really, really important questions. And we don't have those resolved in the United States. So in my view, that is extremely and extraordinarily important policy question that remains open. And I'm hopeful that we'll kind of see that resolved in the earlier part of this new administration.